Hello, hi, my name is Ren, and sometimes I draw stuff. Welcome if you're new here, welcome back in case you're not. This is actually the second video in a, as of now, two-part video series. I don't really plan to do another one, but who knows? Either way, first one was me giving the Winx Club members a little fantastical makeover, and now we're doing the same to the iconic Gaslight Gatekeep girl boss trio from the series. Obviously, the Trix designs are just as iconic as the Winx Club members, but I do feel there is a bit less to work with compared to the fairies, especially in the color department. Their designs are kind of more monochromatic, but that said, I have always appreciated their kind of darker color scheme compared to the Winx, because I personally really love jewel tones. And also, their main colors are a dark pink, a purple, and cool blue, which are just straight up my favorite colors. So maybe that's another reason why I've always loved them so much. But anyway, enough preamble, let's get talking about the actual designs. So we're starting off with the iconic girl boss herself, Icy. Now, as we all know here, she has a pretty obvious ice theme going on given her powers and her name and everything, so I tried to mostly keep with the ice and cold weather related stuff. In that regard, I know a popular way to show off somebody's invincibility to the cold often includes them not wearing much, but I personally think that in a good chunk of cases, this is kind of just an excuse to give female characters skimpy outfits, and I'm not a huge fan of that. That kind of fan service is not for me. Yeah, so I did not do that. And also, I just really like cloaks, especially those with like fluffy fur on them as like a design element. I think they look very nice. And since Icy already has a cape in her original design, that's what I decided to go with in the end. In regards to the cape, I never really noticed this while watching the show, or maybe I forgot it since I last watched it, but Icy is the only one with a cape out of the three Trix. I don't know why, but this is kind of funny to me that like, yeah, the other ones just don't get cape rights. This is an exclusive thing. No cape rights for you. Anyway, in keeping with her canon design, I kept the colors mostly confined to shades of blue, though I obviously tried to vary them a bit more just to give some more design interest. You can see there's a bunch of lighter shades in there, there's even some white. So yeah, didn't really keep to the colors of the original design, but mostly to the shape of her outfit. And then I just added some detailing on top of her outfit, as well as adding some ice crystals at the top of the coat and at the thigh-high boots. Because, you know, she has ice powers, we gotta reincorporate that ice everywhere we can. This also includes her hair. I gave her a little ice crown to keep her hair under control, and also a decadent little necklace made of ice crystals, because I think she deserves a little treat. I don't actually think she was like royalty from what I remember of the show, but I thought she deserves a crown nonetheless. If there is a canon connection, that would be cool, but entirely incidental. I only watched like the first 5 seasons, I think, originally, and that was when I was a kid, so that's been years since my exposure to that. I recently rewatched like parts of the first season with a friend, but even there I'm like a little hazy on what even happened. But yeah, I think she deserves a crown. She was working toward world domination. I think she'd appreciate that. Anyway, incorporating that ice motif over and over was kind of the design ethos behind her, so I don't really have much to say about that. This was just really straightforward. So yeah, that's it for her. Let's move on to our next girl boss, Darcy. So I'm not gonna lie, Darcy turned out to be my definite favorite out of these 3. And that is not just because I love the color purple. This is despite the fact that, unlike with Icy, I wasn't quite sure what to do with her at the beginning. I knew that I wanted to give her some similar demonic traits to Icy, but I wasn't quite sure about her outfit and what to do with that. And wait, actually, I don't think I've talked about the general idea behind these redesigns yet. Sorry, let's fix that. So, if you watched the first video for the Winx redesigns, I was going for a kind of like elemental connection with like nature and their respective element vibes and giving them some like features of like mythical creatures also associated with like their elements and stuff, which I think worked pretty okay. But I also knew the same thing wouldn't quite work for the Trix. I really like the design variety I ended up with for the Winx Club members, but I also knew that I wanted the Trix trio to be a little more cohesive in comparison, I guess. Because I also feel like in canon, their designs much more feel like they're one item, like the three are meant to go together. The fairies can also kind of like stand on their own a little bit more. I don't know how to put this. Anyway, since I wanted the Trix to be a little more cohesive, I decided to go with an overarching theme for all of them, which is a kind of warlock, deal with the devil, demon vibe for the three. That's where the claws and the dark eyes come from. That's the vibe. The thought behind it was that, you know, since even in canon, witches are low-key to high-key evil, at least in a lot of the series, I wanted their powers and designs in this version to reflect that by being a bit more sinister and less natural than the fairy designs. And also historically, as we all know, there was the idea that witches would receive their powers from deals with the devil or various demons, so I thought that, you know, is a good theme to work with. In this case, the deal with the devil doesn't need to be like literal. In fact, I think it works well enough in like a metaphorical sense, by which I mean that, you know, to gain this kind of power, this kind of magic, one would need to sacrifice a part of their humanity, and that the use of like this darker magic, which is fueled by negative emotion, ultimately corrupts the user both spiritually and physically. The monstrous shape of the soul made manifest in the physical form, if you will. That's that's of course a very pretentious way to put this, but yeah, you know, that was my thought process that influenced these designs at their core. Now that I've talked about it, I have to be honest, these final designs aren't quite what I was planning for at the beginning. Similarly to my first draft of the Winx designs, these were originally much less conventionally looking and a lot more like monstrous and strange and more of a departure from the original designs. So they weren't really... At the end, they looked cool. I liked the ideas, but I ultimately pulled back from that a little bit to keep them more recognizable. Anyway, back to Darcy after this exploration. I actually don't have that much to say about her design either. I gave her some additional jewelry, changed the design of her top slightly, and also added some more small details and gradients for some more design variation, similarly to what I did with Icy, and obviously I also gave her black claws instead of her purple gloves. What tripped me up with her for a while was actually the hair. Now, when I was a kid, I kind of hated Darcy's hair color. It's just a genuinely ugly greenish brown and just... it's not a very appealing color. However, knowing about color theory, I can appreciate it a lot more for what it is. See, in Icy's case, she has like this white hair that adds some much needed contrast to her otherwise pretty dark design, but Darcy has dark hair. So that's not really an option. So obviously the designers decided to keep with her dark theme, but went for contrast using a different method, which would be complementary colors. For purple, you know, purple's complementary color is yellow, and you know, there's a lot of pretty yellows, but they're usually bright and saturated, and not dark. And a dark desaturated yellow will just be a kind of ugly shade of brown. So yeah, I'm not big on that color, but you know, I can appreciate it now. And it is just well done design choice, so I did decide to keep it in the end. For a while I played around with making it like grey or black, but while doing that I really noticed how it threw off the balance of the design. So yeah, keeping my least favorite shade of brown for this one, but that didn't detract from her design because, as I said, she turned out to be my absolute favorite out of the three. Anyway, off to our last lady, which is Stormy. Now, I will be transparent and admit that Stormy has far and away always been my least favorite of the three. I don't know why, I just think her personality doesn't jive with my personal taste, which is a real shame, because her main color is like this beautiful dark red shade. It's almost exactly the same shade as my possibly most favorite Copic marker color, which is called Peony. I love that one so much. I could use it forever. It's so good. But yeah, my general dislike aside, so for her design, I did the same as for the others, mostly kept the basic idea and shape of her outfit, and then add some details and make small changes as I went. I think most obviously I changed the cut of her skirt to be longer and more flowy, as well as being a little ripped and uneven compared to her like mini skirt she has canonically. And then the most drastic change I did for her design would be that I gave her some very long flowy sleeves. Now, this is a strong departure from canon, but hear me out on this. I chose these as a design element because I think Stormy also deserves a part of her like outfit that can dramatically swoosh in the wind, especially since she has like weather related powers. It seems just really unfair to make her the only Trix who has neither long hair nor a cape that can dramatically flow in the breeze. So yeah, I took pity on her, gave her these long sleeves so she can take part in the dramatics. Yeah, I also added a few more small details and gems here and there, gave her a collar to keep in style with the other two, who also have some kind of design element around their neck. I see with her necklace, and Darcy's top goes up to her neck, and she also has some gems up there, so yeah. Wanted them to, you know, obviously be a trio that goes together. And of course, there are some fun gradients in here too, same as with the other ones. They are, I think, more reserved than the ones in Icy's redesign. Icy really has the strongest value range, I think. There are like very light colors in her design and very dark ones. Darcy and Stormy are kind of like dark mid-range tones mostly. Which it isn't a bad thing, especially since their skin is very light, so I think it still balances out mostly. That's actually another thing I noticed while doing these, which was that apart from Stormy, the Trix all had like a lot more conservative outfits than the Winx Club members, excluding Tekna, I guess, which I think is kind of interesting just as like a choice, because given like, I mean, I don't mean to generalize, but I think very often the design trend goes towards giving more evil characters, especially evil female characters, more revealing and like quote-unquote sexy outfits than the ones who are morally good. There isn't really a value judgment from me on this. I just think it's kind of neat. It's an interesting trend I've noticed, and it's surprising. I know that later when the Trix get like power-ups, I think especially in what was it, like season 3, they also get some skimpy outfits, I guess one could call them, but yeah, it was just an interesting thing I noticed. But yeah, no value judgment here, like both is good. As I've mentioned in my Winx redesign video, these outfits are all really iconic and well designed. They all look really, really good. But yeah, is there anything else? Oh yeah, one thing I forgot about before doing these redesigns is, or that I never really consciously noticed that much, is that all the Trix have the initials of their first name on their outfit, which is both really funny and also a little bit stupid. It's very cartoony, which, I mean, Winx Club is a cartoon show, so fair enough, I guess. And I decided to leave that out here as well. I hope you can forgive me for leaving out such an iconic design part, but it's just, that was not the vibe I was going for. But yeah, that is all I have to say about these. I hope you enjoyed our time here together. I'd love to hear your opinions on these designs in the comments. Do you have a favorite? Mine is Darcy, as I've mentioned, but you know, I have a strong bias towards purple, so of course she'd be my favorite. Anyway, let's have a look at the finished girls, and yeah, I hope to see you around for some other videos in the future.